Want to learn how the pros make YouTube thumbnails that stick out and get attention in 6 easy steps? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Ciao, homie! Ciao, homie! I am my block's strongest man, and I help you create small goals that matter in whatever you do. On this channel, we exercise with everyday objects, talk bodybuilding and strength sports, and review my block's best gadgets. If you're new here, consider subscribing and clicking the bell button for all notifications of my upcoming videos that release every other day at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And at any point during this video, check out links in the description below where I list out everything that I've discussed in this video and how to get merchandise that helps us spread this message of small goals matter together, and tips like TubeBuddy to help supercharge your own channel. So on to today's topic. So welcome back to my series on YouTube channel art, where today I want to talk about how to make the perfect free custom thumbnail for YouTube that will be eye-catching to potential viewers and get people to want to watch more. So looking at my channel here, you'll see a particular thing about my thumbnails. They all look the same except for minor changes, and that's done purposely. My thumbnails were all done from screenshots of my videos earlier, and that's fine if you're sitting at your desk where your face is nice and crisp and in focus, but I'm running around my yard lifting around heavy items as part of my fitness channel on lots of my videos, and that doesn't work so well. So my thumbnails were blurry, out of focus, far away. There was way too much text and emojis all over them, and it just wasn't clear to the potential viewer on what value they were going to get from my thumbnails. Look at them now. Standard look and feel. So what does that buy me? When a viewer watches one of my videos and then they're searching for something else on YouTube and they see this look and feel, they think, oh, that guy, that's the video that I liked. I'll watch this other one too. Or hopefully not, but that's the guy I don't like and I won't watch his videos. But either way, the decision making is made much easier for the viewer. They have much greater chance of jumping on another one of your videos because they can pick it out from the crowd of what's on their page as being one of yours. So, how do we create great, standardized, eye-catching thumbnails like this for free and in a custom fashion? So, I'll show you how to do that. First of all, let's find out from our friend Google what the ideal dimensions for a thumbnail are. And Google says 1280 by 720. And so that is HD, regular HD. My block's strongest man likes to go the extra mile, so I go 1920 by 1080, which is full HD. And next question would be, well, what software do I use to draw all this stuff? As always, I recommend Inkscape. Why? Number one, it's free. Number two, it's super robust. It has all the features that you will ever need to make awesome looking thumbnails like the ones I just showed you that I've made, or your profile pic or your channel banner. Like, it has it all covered. So, next step here is download Inkscape now. So, what does Inkscape look like? Let's open it up. Here is a thumbnail I recently created that I'm really proud of and think came out really nice in Inkscape for my killer chest workout, which we'll be releasing shortly in the coming days. And I'll show you how I would go about creating something like this. So let's start kind of from scratch now that you know the best practices about how to make thumbnails in a way that really attract attention. So I'll go ahead and open up a new window and just show you some of these steps. We won't have to do a complete one like I just showed you, but we will give you all the basics from start to finish. So first, File, Document Properties, and we want to go into this pop-up, change the units to pixels, and tell Inkscape that we would like our thumbnail to be 1920 by 1080 tall. So as soon as you tab out of there, close that dialog box, and you now have your proper size. So we can zoom in with the zoom tool here on the bottom, so that it takes up our whole screen. I'll zoom out a little bit. And there we go. And so what I recommend starting off with is going to this rectangle tool. And with the rectangle tool, what you can do is just draw a rectangle from the top left down to the bottom right, like this, and you'll get that border effect that I have on mine. See, so this is my thumbnail. I have kind of a blue fill with a gradient color. You see it's lighter up here in the corner, and I'll show you how to do that with a yellow border. And you'll want to come up with whatever color scheme is on brand for you or what you prefer. And so what we can do now that we have our rectangle is, first of all, I'll show you how to unround these corners. I like the rounded corners for me, but lots of people don't. Like Nick Nimmin, for example, has straight corners as far as I could ever tell, both on his full thumbnail and on his text. So you'll see my text has rounded corners too. His doesn't. It's all up to your personal preference and what you think your viewers will like. So you can just grab this circle here, pull it to the corner, grab this other circle, pull it on top of the first circle, and there you go. Your big rounded corners are gone. They're slightly rounded still, and there are options to fix that, but for all intents and purposes, when this is reduced to the size of a thumbnail, you won't be able to see that. It's just very large on my screen right now. And then in terms of the colors, you want to go to the Fill and Stroke menu. So I click on Fill, and the fill is... Oops, sorry, we have to select our rectangle again. There we go. There's our fill. So our fill was selected using this wheel tool. I just moved my triangle around. You can kind of grab the little line and move your triangle around to whatever you want the fill to be. So let's say you want a greenish color, you can do that. And then stroke is literally like the stroke of a paintbrush. So if I go to stroke paint, I can then change the stroke to, let's say, this reddish color. And so you have control over all of that. You can use RGB, hex, whatever mechanism you like to pick the color that you like. And they even have kind of the eyedropper tool. Like if you have a color somewhere else that you want to replicate, you can do that as well. So the other thing, stroke style, that's where you select the thickness. So if you think that border's too thick and want to bring it down a bit, you can, right? So we'll make it 7 millimeters instead of 10. Okay, so now you see my border has come down. So that's how I get the rectangular border effect with the fill, the color fill. Now, what you can do is, since you have your rectangle selected, what you want to do instead is come back to the rectangle tool. So click on the rectangle so that now, instead of giving you arrows all around, it gives you kind of circles and like different properties on what you might be able to do. So if we come back to fill, that's the sizing, and that circle is the corners. And so if I click on, where is it? Okay, so now if I click on the rectangle to open up the rectangle properties and come into fill, and instead of this flat color, I pick linear gradient, you see now it gets lighter as we go that way. And if you grab this circle that's halfway down, you can control where that is. So I can bring the white over here. I can make it come up from the bottom corner. I can make it come from left to right. I can flip it around like this. So you can do kind of, that's like what mine does. It's lighter up in the corner and gets darker. So you have like full control, and that's a linear gradient. You can do radial gradients too, which means they radiate out from the center. And again, these little circles give you control over that. And in the properties, you can, fine tune it even further, but I found that to work really well for me. When you're done, click your select tool and select off of it, and you have your final product there. So next, take lots of photos of yourself making different expressions with your face. And so I'll show you how I did that for me. If we go to File, Import, and then I have this folder called Expressions. You don't need this many. I think I got the idea from Vanessa Lau. Go check out her channel. Lots of great ideas about thumbnails and all other things, YouTube and social media on there. You'll learn a ton. So the game changer advice that she gives that I have to share with you is, once you take photos of yourself, they're going to have backgrounds, your wall, your door, whatever you're standing in front of. You don't want that. So you go to this website, remove.bg, and simply you say remove background. it will ask you to upload your image. You upload your image, you find it somewhere on your computer, wherever your image is. Let's change this view to large icon. So maybe I'll see if I can find a JPEG like before. Here you go. So here's a JPEG I was playing around with. That one probably won't work so well though. Let's find one that's easier for the background to remove. If you have like lots of little lines in between things, it could be difficult. Here, so I did a video about doing audio for YouTube, and I use a Blue Yeti. So I have this Blue Yeti, and look at that. Background in a second. That took a second, sometimes 2 or 3 seconds. But it made it into a PNG, so there's no background. So now when you go add it to a thumbnail, it looks nice and crisp and professional. So if we go back here and we take, I don't know, let's take this expression of mine. You see it's there with no background, so it fits in really nicely. I usually, I'll use my arrow keys to kind of fine tune it, line it up with the border, and then we want to grab this corner while holding the control key, keep it proportional, and I like to make my face go all the way up so it's, taking up the whole height of the thumbnail so we don't have empty space for no reason. There we go, something like that. And we'll just zoom back out a bit. And the reason why you want to have your face on your thumbnails is, again, it's recognizable. People can pick it out easily when they want to watch more. So expressions, the ones you need. You don't need like 40 or 50 or whatever I have, but you need happy, sad, disgusted, surprised, angry. What else? That's probably enough to get you by quite a bit. I have faces of like struggle because I do weightlifting on my channel, but if you have specific expressions that come up during your niche, then include those as well. And just use them over and over again. Don't go take pictures of yourself every time you're doing a thumbnail. So one thing I need to throw in here, it took me 2 or 3 days, almost full days, to get my first thumbnail redone, to get this one, not this particular one, but one like this done. But then I had a template, so all I have to do now for a new thumbnail is change the text over here, change the expression to one of the other ones in my library, and then just change the middle image. Usually it's the same silhouette, and just change what he's holding or pressing to match the subject of my video. It takes 20 minutes. So once you can get it done one time and have a nice template, it's really fast to replicate them for other thumbnails. Okay, so how do you do the text? Well, more rectangles, right? So we're going to put another rectangle here. And we'll just do a few, right? So 1, 2, and don't worry about making them the same size. It's actually like shows character and is more interesting if they're like a little off center and not all the same size. And then what you can do is, like, I don't usually put borders on my text backgrounds because this is where the text is going to go. Like that, the background that you see here starts off as a rectangle. That's literally what it is, and then I stylize it. So here you can come back to fill and stroke. You can go to your stroke paint and say like none. I don't want one. Here, no stroke. Here, no stroke. And here, no stroke. And then we can make it a color that stands out more. We don't want green on green, right? So we can say the fill paint should be black. This one should be black. This one should be red. And this one should be red. And then, you know, all you do is use your text tool to draw your text right on the background. So it's common with thumbnails. Lots of people do all caps. So I'll make my text white so we can see it, and I'll make it a font that's more legible than my default of Romantiques. For some reason, I use that once in Inkscape, and it thinks that I want that as the default every time for some reason. So I'll change it to this Aroni, which is easier to read, and then I'll just click on my select tool, hold down my control key, drag it down, make it bigger, And then, again, don't worry about it being perfect. Like, if you kind of stretch it to fit, it shows character, right? It kind of is eye-catching unless it's, like, too goofy or, you know, too out of proportion. But a little bit, I think, is eye-catching. And then, for the purpose of our video here, so we don't take up too much time, I'll just put the same one on each background, like so. So I'm just copy-pasting. And then what you can do to change these rectangles, they were squares, but you know, I made them rectangles, to look like this, is one of the coolest features in Inkscape. So you click on it, you go to filters, and you have, like, look at all these options of crazy filters you can do. So you have your simple ones that are under shadows and glow. So your cutout glow is, see how it's showing like a little bit of a dark glow around it? That's a simple one. Or you can do things like refractive gel. So look at that, right? That one I wouldn't do unless you're going to do black text, because you want to make sure not get too fancy to the point where it's not legible, right? So black text might be okay on that one. I click this one, and we go back to filters. There are overlays as well, and there's stuff like, let's see what rough transparency is. There you go. So that's kind of cool. Like, it's torn away a little bit. It doesn't affect how you can read the text. And then this one will make, let's see what morphology has. Morphology has black hole. Okay, and this one is one that I actually use. So if you go back here, my word workout has that black hole option to it. So that's kind of how you get text with backgrounds to work. They're literally just rectangles or squares that you stylize with the filters, and you can play around with the filters and see which ones work best for you. So then as for the middle, same thing. File, import, and I have in another folder, you know, my standard logos, what I use for my profile pic, for my channel banner. I use it for thumbnails as well. So if we just scroll down here a little bit, I have here, this is a profile pic that I used on YouTube in a PNG format. So background removed with that website that I just showed you on how to remove it. And I'll just drag it onto here, make it large enough to kind of take up the whole center. And then we can play around with layering as well. So, you know, for example, if I want it here, but I want it behind the words, I can add a layer by going to the layer menu, make it layer 2, and then we can go back to layer and say, move that layer to the bottom. Oh, sorry, we have to move this to layer 2 first. There you go. And now you see it's sitting under the text and under the color as well. So you can make 3 layers if you want it to be under the text but not under the color, and so forth. So you can play around with all of that. And now we're getting close to, you know, matching what I did here. So those are all the techniques you need to know on how to do it. The only thing that I really change about this middle image is, instead of using the one holding up the recliner, I have a version of it where it's just the man holding nothing. And so, yeah, I have it in here somewhere. There's a version of the man holding just nothing, which it might be in my thumbnails folder perhaps. Let's take a look. Probably near the bottom. There he is. So I use this one where he's holding nothing, and then I'll grab an image like this hanging chair or whatever the topic of my video is, and make a PNG of that as well and slide it right over his hands. And then that's how I get, you know, something like you've seen here, where the power blocks, I grabbed that image and placed it on top of, you know, a modified version of my silhouette guy with his arms down. And it's just piecing those things together. So like I said, it may take you 2 or 3 days to get the original one done, but after that, 20 minutes each to change them each time. When I finish filming or recording this video right now, I'll go make a thumbnail in 20 minutes for it. It's literally that quick. So hopefully you found all of this helpful. Oh, I'd be remiss if I don't tell you what to do when you're done with your design. Come back here, 2 last steps. Save as. This will be your project file, so you see all my project files here. Save as. And then the last step is File, Export to PNG. So what you see here is not an image, it is a project file. You need to come back to your Export, Export As, select where you want the file to go, what you want to call it, and then click Export, and it will actually export it as a PNG file. So you'll see my project file I just showed you for that power block workout eventually became this PNG, like this final PNG that you can then go and upload to YouTube when you're uploading your video. So those are all the steps. To recap for you, come up with a theme that you know you can standardize to make a nice look and feel. Take lots of expression pictures of yourself that are different from each other. Happy, sad, surprised, disgusted, incredulous, angry. Find out what the ideal dimensions for a thumbnail are. I recommend 1920 by 1080. Download Inkscape. Go into Inkscape and put your thumbnail together with all of the components I just said, in addition to squares or rectangles that are stylized but still legible for your text. Hopefully you found this helpful, and I look forward to us meeting again next time. So if you like this video and want to learn more about any of the products I described during this video, make sure to check out the links in the description below. So thanks again for joining My Block's Strongest Man. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing using that button right there. And also, please consider watching more videos like this that I'm sure you will love as well. You should see them blooping up right over there. The one up here is the one YouTube thinks that you'll like the best, and the one over here is the one that I think that you will like the best. And of course, I appreciate it all. Share this with everybody you know. And of course, as always, until next time, ciao, homie.